Hi guys, this is Scrively with another pen review, and today we're going to have a look at a Waterman pen, Waterman Paris. I've already reviewed a number of Waterman pens. Among them I do think the Waterman Carène, which is this pen here with this lovely inlaid 18K gold nib. Then I've also once reviewed the Waterman Expert. This here happens to be the Expert Deluxe model, which is also a really nice pen. I've just took them out here so that I can make a small size comparison to the Waterman pen that I have right here in front of me, and that happens to be the Exception Slim with silver trims. This is not the Exception Night and Day. That is a little bit beefier, chunkier, the thicker version of the pen. That is the slim version of the Exception. And the Waterman Exception is a sort of a flagship model of Waterman. It's like even pricier than the Carène. So that pen here costs around 300 euro. You can at times find it for 250 or something like that. Comes in this nice box here. There was a blue ink cartridge in here and a converter that came with the pen that is inside the pen. This here is a warranty and maintenance guide. Otherwise, nothing much. This is the Waterman packaging that all these pens come in. Most Waterman pens come in exactly that box here. Now this Exception Slim here also came with a cloth pouch here that I have never seen on the Carène or on the any other Waterman pen, but the Exception does have that, and since it's a pricier pen, I do find that a very nice, very neat feature. We have the Exception Slim here in the black and silver trim finish. That pen does also come in blue, also with silver trims, and blue or black with gold trims. They're available with fine and medium nibs. This here does happen to have a fine nib on. It's a very unique pen design that you already see will prevent the pen from rolling anywhere on your desk because of its square shape that I'm not aware of any fountain pen at the moment off the top of my head that does have this shape, which I find very interesting. The finial is silver plated as well. It is rounded, it has the typical Waterman logo in here. You see here that this is highly reflective. It has the typical cutout that you do find on most Waterman clips, right? They all have a cutout. So does the one on the Exception Slim also have a cutout. It has a small square here, and I do think it says P for Paris and W for Waterman. It's a spring-loaded clip. Wonderful. I have to say, everything about this pen, I don't know if this is now a comparison that makes sense, but does feel like closing the car of a Mercedes. It just feels really top-notch, high quality. Nothing feels flimsy or I don't know what. It just feels, this spring mechanism here feels super high quality. It is really, really very well made. Perfect amount of tension. Flares out down here just a little bit to make it easy to slide into a shirt pocket or into a pen pouch. Really wonderful. Has a silver plated cap band. Then here says France, some small stripes down here, says Waterman Paris here, nothing here, Waterman Paris again, and then we're back to France here on the side. And then we have the same glossy black lacquer, and you do see that that's like one maybe disadvantage of the fountain pen. It does really pick up fingerprints like crazy. All those Waterman pens here do. I don't really mind it. That black lacquer, this is the Carène Black Sea GT, I think. And then, of course, the Expert Deluxe here, they all have the same black lacquer that does pick up fingerprints like crazy. It's really a fingerprint magnet. I don't mind it, but if you don't like fingerprints, if you hate that, if you have a problem with that, this is not the pen for you. But the lacquer has a really nice depth to it. It's a really nice, highly glossy, deep, rich black lacquer that I really like. And then at the end, we have a silver end cap or whatever. It's a pop-off cap, of course. I was trying to screw it. It's a pop-off cap. Has a inner cap in here to prevent the nib from drying out. You then find a section and a nib. The nib is very, very interesting looking, I find. It says Waterman Ideal. I'm actually not sure what Ideal stands for. It might be a reference to the older Waterman pens for some reason. If you have any clues about that, please leave that for me in the comments. I'd be interested in that. It's a rhodium plated 18K 750 gold nib, has a globe on here and a super interesting feed. Says F for fine. Has no channels or whatsoever down here. Does look slightly vintagey to me. And a very nice fine point, which is actually really true to the size. Waterman pens normally tend to run a little bit wider as to their designation, but this fine actually is really a nice true fine. So now it has a interesting but also slightly dangerous section maybe, because it is a pen that I would actually recommend you to either try personally in a store or buy from a trusted online dealer such as Appelboom Pen, for example, where you could, if the pen would not work for you, probably give it back, but check that in advance if that is possible. I do think it should be possible, because what you actually have with this section here is this square body shape does continue here into the section, and it's difficult to show you. Yeah, you see it in the lighting, and then it sort of like starts to flare into a completely round section. So now it will depend on your grip. The section is on the slimmer side. That's for sure. The pen model is called Slim. It's actually not that tiny. It's a quite big pen. I can imagine the Night and Day to be like really chunky, but it's a slightly slimmer section. I'd say, let me get a M400. I think that should be about the size of the section. I have a M400 here. Yeah, something like that, right? It's like around, because the M400 also is a little bit narrower down here and then a little bit wider up here. So I think you can expect something around the Pelikan M200/M400 in section diameter. This, of course, now just being a rough estimate, not a hard scientific measure. I'm sure other reviewers do those measurements, so you can look it up there. So as said, if you grab that pen, and now you have also, like, according to your comfort, you have a very narrow grip down here and a wider grip up here. If you prefer the narrow grip down here, you won't really have a problem. By the way, I don't find the section, however, it's a glossy lacquer. I don't find it slippery. I have a good grip right now. My hands are slightly wet because it's warm here in the room, but I have a good grip. Anyway, if you hold the pen down here, you won't notice much. You won't have a problem or something. But if you tend to hold your pen a little bit higher, it might be, maybe, depending on, like, you know, some people grab their pens like this, or, I mean, I've seen all kinds of grips. Depending on how you grip your pen, it might be that you somehow grab onto those edges here, or that one of those edges maybe sits here. That happens to be the case with my grip. That edge sits right here on my finger. So in long writing sessions, I always have to adjust my grip so that I hold that pen actually sort of like I would be holding onto one of those Lamy Safari triangular sections. So because it's not a $50 pen or something like that, it's a €300 pen, you really want that to be a comfortable pen for you. So that's why I say I would actually really recommend you to try that pen out before. It is a cartridge filler, opens like that. As said, the Mercedes door closing quality effect thingy, that feels super well constructed, very nicely built. has metal threads here, comes with a Waterman converter, the standard international Waterman converter, and you can also use standard international cartridges. That sits in here like, yeah, it's just like really sits in there very well constructed. Barrel has a nice weight to it, and you just screws back on like this. And then when you reach the end point of the threading, it just snags on like this a little bit. Really nice. Size comparison. Let's do a size comparison to those other Waterman pens that I have, because like I do think that the exception is probably if someone starts looking into Waterman pens, is probably not the first Waterman one buys. If you buy an exception, I think chances are good that you already do have a Carène or an Expert or something like that, which are both slightly longer than the exception. Remove the caps. You do see that I seem to have a thing for black pens with silver trims, which is not entirely untrue. Uncapped, they're about all the same. Posted, I've not shown you that pen posted, by the way. It doesn't post all that deep, in fact. Just posts, once again, my finger slipped away. Just posts like that, not all that deep. So posted, it's the longest of all three, and I do find that pen here actually to be a little uncomfortable posted. It's way too long for me, it becomes unwieldy, back heavy, noticeably back heavy. No pen that I would write posted, but like this, apart from that issue, it's not really an issue, it just depends on your grip, so you got to try that out. Apart from that grip thing, very nice pen in hand. And before I do a writing sample, let me do another size comparison in case you do not have any other Waterman pen, to my standard size reference pen, Alamy Safari. Same size, approximately posted, capped, slightly shorter, the Waterman, and uncapped. The Waterman also a wee bit shorter, and also here, section comparison, you do see that the Lamy Safari has a slightly wider section. So, but now we go on to the writing sample, and this nib is a dream to write with. It is really a pleasure, I have to say. It's a nib on the wetter side. It's inked with, okay, that is now because I had it uncapped a while in the course of the review. That does normally not happen. Never had an issue with that pen not writing. I had that down for at least 2 weeks now before the review, because I have too many pens inked up waiting for review at the moment. When I picked it up to write with it before the review, it just started up straight away. It's inked with Diamine Blue Black, I believe. Waterman exception slim with a fine nib. This is a slightly wetter nib. This is highly absorbent paper here, but you still get some quite nice wetness. So you see this is definitely a nice wet nib, and it is a pleasure to write with. It has a tiny amount of feedback, but it is really this warm butter on glass type of smoothness. So really a pleasure to write with. That was the review of the Waterman Exception Slim with silver trim. I hope that review was useful to you, and I'll see you at the next review. Bye bye.